Welcome to the Physical Product Movement, a podcast by Fiddle. We share stories of the world's most ambitious and exciting physical product brands to help you capitalize on the monumental change in how, why, and where consumers buy. I'm your host, Ken Ojuka. In today's episode of the Physical Product Movement podcast, I have the opportunity to speak with Juan Giraldo from Waku, a beverage brand behind a popular line of ready-to-drink herbal teas infused with prebiotics. Juan had a lot to share about starting a mission-driven brand and how you first need to satisfy customers' taste and functional requirements before you earn the right to enlist them on your brand's mission. Since he is from Ecuador, he wanted to make an impact in his home country by sourcing organic, high-quality, and pure ingredients coming directly from the farms of Ecuador. He talks about the challenges of setting up a co-manufacturer and a raw ingredient supply chain in another country. He walks us through the steps he took to get his first products to market and how he repositioned his products several times based directly on customer feedback. I think you'll see big things coming from these guys in the next few years. It's a great product in a great market. Juan was a fantastic guest. I think you'll learn a lot from him. Enjoy. Yeah. Hey, Juan, how you doing, man? Thanks for jumping on the podcast with me. How are you doing today?
Hey, Ken, my pleasure. It's doing well. Sunny day in New York City, so I can't complain.
Yeah, and you're in Brooklyn, right?
Brooklyn, New York, yep.
Okay, cool. How long you been there?
Almost a year now. I actually moved to this. I'm originally from Ecuador, Ken, and I moved to the States about 6 years ago. And I spent 5 years in Boston, went to grad school then and then we started Waku there. But with the pandemic, a few things changed in my life and in our business. So I reallocated to Brooklyn May 2021.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, as we were talking about, I have a brother out in Brooklyn, and I keep meaning to go visit him. I've visited New York many times, but I want to go get the real experience from someone who lives there. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a place that you need to visit and live if you can. It's a wonderful city.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let's just kick it off, man. Like we like to start it off with a quote, something that gets you out of bed or inspires you or has been impactful to you in some way. Do you have one in mind that you could share?
Yeah, this is a quote from a businessman, a Brazilian businessman that I really admire. His name is Jorge Paulo Lemann. And once he said, it takes the same amount of energy to dream small as to dream big. So why wouldn't you dream big?
And so that's, I like that.
That's kind of a motto that I live by and that our company has as a core value is dream big.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that from the entrepreneur's standpoint because, these businesses, it's so much work to get off the ground. You might as well be working on something that can make a big impact and, can have a much larger reward. It really is. I totally believe that quote that you're going to put in about the same amount of effort. Yeah,
no, I agree. And as you said, it's the amount of energy that it takes to get a company off the ground is ridiculous. So I think that is not only like big ambitions or big impact, but is what does big means to you, right? So it could be something that for other people is not as big as it is for you. So it's just picking the right thing, something that you're passionate about, that you believe in, and then you know that you're going to devote the next 5 to 10 years to it. So you better like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that, I would think that most people are, the person who maybe, picks a small mission instead of, like a big one, it might be a little bit of apprehension or, just self-consciousness. Hey, can I actually do this? Can I pull this off? And, what it kind of touches on one of my favorite things about entrepreneurship, which is, it's the journey grows you as an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. Like you are forced to level up and to become greater and to become bigger. So it's almost like in the process, you become the type of person that can run a big business, right? Or a big opportunity. Have you noticed that at all in your life?
Yeah, no, I was about to say that. That's you're exactly right. I mean, there is nothing else that I've been through in my life that has pushed me to improve myself as entrepreneurship has. So it's the the mental strength that you develop, resiliency, communication skills, leadership skills, even tolerance for pain, I would say. These are all things that are making you level up, as you said. So we've definitely felt it that way with Waku, and I felt it in the past with other startups that I've had in the past. That's why I love this journey so much, because it's a personal development journey.
Well, let's hear just a little bit more about you. You said that you're from Ecuador. Maybe describe the household you grew up in and what you were like and what you were interested in, and what led you to come to the United States.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Quito, Ecuador. Both of my parents are immigrants there from Colombia. So I spent half of my time in Colombia and then Ecuador while growing up. Very lucky and fortunate, because I grew up in a very loving family. So my mom and my dad very supportive, and I have two siblings. So very happy memories of where I grew up. I grew up in Quito, which is the capital city of Ecuador, and I saw entrepreneurship first glance since I was born, because both of my parents are entrepreneurs. And the family business is still up and running right now. Second generation, both of my siblings run that business now. It's in the education industry. So for us, while growing up, it felt like the business was like another sibling at the table, because we'd all be eating, and my parents will always bring up the business discussion on the table, right? So we learned first glance the amount of work ethic and commitment that you need in order to grow a business. And then I've been in and out of Ecuador since I finished high school. I'm fortunate to live in Europe. Then my undergrad came here for some time. And then for my grad school, I always wanted to go to business school at Babson, which is a school in Boston that has a very good entrepreneurial program.
Right.
And the goal was always to come here, go to school as a stepping stone to then start a company in the US. And so in 2016, I left my job as the CEO of a tech company in Ecuador. And my co-founder and I started discussing what can we do in order to launch a business in the US, but at the same time have a positive socioeconomic impact in Ecuador. That is really the main driver for our business and the passion that brought us together, Nico and I. And we analyzed many different industries. We ended up deciding on 3 characteristics that we wanted this business to have. One, regardless of whether we will operate the business overseas or in Ecuador, it needed to be a business that could allow us to have direct impact in the economy there. Second, it would be in an industry where Ecuador has a comparative advantage. And so that left us only agriculture and tourism, because Ecuador does both of those industries very, very well. And third was a business from Ecuador to the world and not from the world to Ecuador. And mainly because Ecuador is a small country, and again, we have big dreams. And so we then picked agriculture, but we wanted a value-added business, not exporting commodities as the past century of Ecuadorian businessmen have done. We are big exporters of fruits, grains, herbs, everything that comes from the soil. We're very rich as a country. And so we learned about the consumer goods industry. We used the MBA at Babson as a platform of research and networking, and we learned about the trends in the industry. And one in particular got our attention, that is gut health. And so the more and more science and research is behind the importance of gut health in your overall performance, well-being, happiness. And when you look at the categories, all of them are being disrupted by new entrants positioning this function. But in beverage, there has only been one that has sort of made a splash, that is kombucha. And when we dug deeper in the research, we realized that kombucha has is facing some limitations in growth, mostly because of the acquired taste. And so we could bring to market a product with similar benefits, but in a category that has 92% of household penetration and that is beloved by pretty much all American consumers, which is ready to drink tea. And so we're bringing to market a prebiotic herbal tea that has zero added sugars and is brewed with only the finest natural ingredients that are sourced ethically from farmers in Ecuador. And so fantastic product, really delicious. And we have a strong social impact program in Ecuador as well.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that transition, right? You said you're running a tech company and then you decided to start a CPG brand, and you've kind of outlined it, the main reasons why, but I'm curious about some of the differences that you've noticed between running this type of business and then running a tech company. What are the biggest ones?
The main one that comes to mind right now is the obsession with consumers that you need to have in CPG. I mean, I was running a B2B enterprise software services company. So our customers would be, banks or big retail companies, usually businesses that run a lot of data, that have a lot of information, because all of our services were around Oracle databases. And then from when I left that job, that was, again, mostly enterprise sales, now we're consumer, right? And there is a component of B2B sales and relationships, which I think I learned in my previous experiences, but the consumer piece was new to us. And that took a while to learn. And frankly, I think that consumer obsession and product in CPG are the single most important things moving your company from 0 to 1.
Yeah. Let's double click on that a little bit. So consumer obsession, I think most companies would think, okay, we need to care about our customers, that's an important component of our business. That's how we grow. We need to make sure they love the product. Is there anything in particular that you feel like, that you learned, maybe the hard way, or, that really kind of brought that to your attention?
I think that the thing we learned the hard way is that the most important thing is to listen to the market, Ken. So as entrepreneurs, we usually bring concepts to market that we're in love with. And so, for us early on was this idea of positioning a mission-driven brand in the US of a company that would be impacting hundreds of farmers in South America. And we thought that brand positioning could attract consumers. And what we learned was that first and foremost, consumers care about taste, and then what's in it for them, right? So it's the function on the product that is bringing more people into our brand. And our social impact message goes in third place. It's important, it builds loyalty, but it doesn't drive trial, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And so that was one of the things is, look, I mean, the entrepreneurs that I admire the most that are, growing faster than the average early stage company is because they are really tuning in with the market and understanding what resonates and what doesn't, and then tweaking product, branding, pricing, distribution in order to get to that consumer where the product is resonating.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you said it goes third, right? In terms of the mission, just in terms of, driving, trial and getting people to just use your product. So just to be clear, what are the first ones? Is the first one taste? Is that what you said?
The first one is taste. I mean, it's what consumers care the most, right? So your product can have all the benefits in the world as a food and beverage brand, but if it doesn't taste good, no one would buy it again. And so that's the component. We're proud to say that our products taste fantastic, and we use only the best quality natural ingredients. And then it's function. So it's the new generation consumers, they want a little more out of the products they buy. And so for us, we add 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is 25% of the daily intake that American consumers are supposed to get. And most of them don't get the minimum intake that they should. And so we provide 25% of that fiber. And besides that, we don't add any sugars, which are usually causing inflammation. And in addition to that, we use a blend of anti-inflammatory herbs that are the ones that come from the Andes Mountains of Ecuador. And so all of our brand positioning is around gut health. And that's the second one. Even though I would say, Ken, that 60% of customers that are new to brand in our direct-to-consumer business try Waku for the first time because they want more digestive support.
Huh.
So we know
the function is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why digestive support, right? Like, so you mentioned that you guys were looking at some trends, when you were thinking about starting a business, why did this one stick out to you?
So it's just the importance of it. So we dug deeper into the science and the research. And when you think about your gut health, it's the place of your body where you have the most nervous terminations. So it's literally like a second brain. And so when your gut is not operating well, you start feeling it in many different areas of your body. So this can be cognitive function, this can be mood, obviously performance. And so there's more and more research that just is implying how the microbiome is important for your performance. And that was what caught our attention.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's plenty there, and I love, sort of that priority. In fact, I'm looking at your website right now, and you can always kind of tell, what people care about based on like what you see on that sort of the top fold of the of the website. Yeah. And I have seen some CPG brands, and in particular some that have really kind of struggled, where they would actually lead with the mission. So I think they would make that same mistake that I think you guys made early on, really kind of leading with the mission, where you would see that on the top fold on the homepage. And it's been my experience exactly as you explained it, right? First, it's what's in it for me, right? Like it's got to taste good. It's got to be, do something for me. And then, it's like the mission can help to solidify it and give more confidence in the company and the sale. And ultimately, I mean, you could still, I think it doesn't mean that you have to limit the good that you do in the world because you prioritize it that way. In fact, if you can make more sales and get more people to try your product, then you can actually do more in terms of your mission. Is that the way you guys look at it?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, that's a pragmatic way to look at it. I mean, you can have all the best intentions in the world, but if your business doesn't get traction, then you will have no impact. And so that's why it's so important that even if you are a mission-driven company, early on, you need to get you need to understand your consumer. You need to focus on the market first. And then as you continue to scale, you'll have more bandwidth and resources to continue to improve your social impact strategy as well.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about that social impact just a little bit. So you could have started this business without a social mission at all, right? And I just kind of want to look at it like selfishly, right? Like what has having a mission attached to your brand, what has that done for your business? Have you felt a pull forward? Have you felt more support from the community, or, why don't you tell me, what it's done for you and what other entrepreneurs who are thinking about maybe going down that route, what they can expect?
That's a great question, Ken. I think two things come to mind right now. The first one is alignment with partners. And so usually when at least this has been the case for us, is having a social impact or a mission-driven brand brings in a specific type of people. And I'm talking advisors, investors, even suppliers, customers, consumers. So it creates alignment with stakeholders. And also it weeds out people that are not the right partners for us. The first one. Also employees, by the way, it's really good to attract employees and like-minded people in that area. And the second one is very, I would say, personal, and even very selfish, as you said early on, because the second one is having a bigger mission than just making money has made my co-founder and I keep going even in the darkest moments. And this was something that a mentor of ours told us is when things get tough, and they will always get tough when you're in the entrepreneurial journey, remember why you started. And that why should give you the fire to keep pushing, even if things don't look good. And that's exactly the case for us. That deep desire that we have to create a positive socioeconomic impact in Ecuador has been decisive for us in moments where we thought that things were not working out.
Yeah. And it seems like, there's a lot of benefit. I can just hear the passion in your voice, when you talk about your mission, and you talk about your business, and you talk about the people that you impact. I think it just makes it so that that passion, kind of comes out, and which I think can help you in all areas of your business.
Yeah, that is true.
This isn't just another beverage, this is a mission for you.
Yeah.
So looks like you guys are working on a crowdfunding campaign that looks like it's going really well. Can you just tell us a little bit about why you decided to do that? And I guess it's not crowdfunding, it's crowd equity. Is that right?
Crowd equity. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Why'd you guys decide to go that route?
Yeah, so we're running a crowd equity campaign in republic.co/Waku. And yes, we've raised almost 100K there. And the thought process behind it was in the past couple of years, we've focused our distribution direct to consumer. And so we have thousands of people in our email list, and we have thousands of fans now of the brand. And so these are people who are buying from us frequently, and they love the brand. And we figure this could be a great way to give them an opportunity to invest in the company that they already love so much and love their products so much. That was the first thing. The second thing is that both my co-founder and I are international, expats, and we wanted to give our friends from around the world also a chance to invest, people who are not accredited investors. Our network is still late 20s, early 30s. There's not a lot of people who have more than $1 million in assets. And so we figured if we could give them a chance to invest, $1,000, $500, a lot of our friends would invest from other countries. And that's exactly what happened. And so I think it's fascinating how innovation in the US works right now. I think Republic and the likes platforms are giving retail investors an opportunity to invest in private companies that these opportunities were only closed to accredited investors and angel investors in the past, and now is democratized. We can all invest in things that we like and that we think are going to be successful in the future. So I love that.
Yeah, that's great. Anything that you've learned from doing a crowd equity campaign? Any tips that you could give to other people who might be thinking about doing it?
Yeah, so I think it's very important. This may not be only for crowdfunding, but in general, is the importance of creating a community around you and your company. And so, usually the people who have done well in these campaigns is just brands and companies who have built strong communities around them that support them. So I think that's really important. When you go through this process, your financial statements need to be reviewed. So it's a step below audit, let's say. And so I really recommend founders to get on top of their books since the beginning, because then when you're trying to do things like this, it takes a lot of time and effort to actually clean up all your books and get them ready for a review or an audit. And I think that those two for now.
And so how does this work? Does that mean that you end up with a lot of different people on your cap table, or are they lumped into like one single group? Or how does that actually work?
They are lumped into one single group. You're right. Yeah. So Republic actually gets to your cap table. and then it's only one institution, the cap table, and that's it.
Okay. Well, let's switch subjects a little bit. I always want to know about the early days and how you were able to kind of set up your initial supply chain and get your initial product, manufactured and made, and then your first sales. And so let's go back to the very beginning. When you and your business partner had this idea, and you knew that you wanted to source this from Ecuador, obviously, what are some of the first steps that you took in order to start?
I'm glad you asked this, because for us, the product is a lot more than a product that was created on a lab, because the base of all of our products is a traditional recipe that we actually grew up drinking, that comes from the south of Ecuador. And so it's very popular drink in Ecuador that is used every day, mainly because of the digestive benefits and great taste. And so what we decided to do when we figured we were going to launch this is, let's find out where this tradition comes from. And so we basically ended up making a road trip from Quito, which is sort of the north of Ecuador, to the south, the border with Peru, where this tradition comes from. And we stopped in 52 different farmers communities and tried 52 different recipes and learned all about this tradition. And then we ended up partnering up with a farmers community that was the most open, the most welcoming, and that their blend of herbs, that is the base of this product, was the most delicious one. And so we learned the recipe and the ingredients from them, and we started sourcing all of the ingredients from them as well. And so then the next step was only to find a food scientist that could actually industrialize the recipe, let's say, to produce it at scale. So it's a very particular story on how we did it.
Okay. How did you find a food scientist?
Then the food scientist, this is, how my dad, my dad in Ecuador, obviously we were doing all this in Ecuador. So a news article from a couple of young brothers that had started a beverage manufacturing company with an R&D lab. And he was like, "Oh, look, Juan, this is what I read this morning. You should call them up." And we called them, and they are still our manufacturing partner today.
And so when you called them, what were you trying to accomplish? See if they could help industrialize your beverage, or what were you going to ask them?
I literally was trying to understand absolutely everything about the business. So I was trying to. So my questions were like, look, we want to sell these in the United States. We want it to be ready to drink and bottled. We have some sort of a recipe that, we can bring one of these farmers to your lab and for him to share what he does. And then we want to replicate all that. With less sugar, with a shelf life of 12 months. And so we just asked a ton of questions, basically. And they were very helpful at that moment. They had experience manufacturing products that are exported to the US. So they had all the regulatory part set up. And that kicked off our commercial relationship, and it's been great.
And were they a brand themselves? Did they have their own product?
They do have their own brand.
Okay. But they also manufacture for other people?
They started co-packing just for us. I think now they do have a few other customers, but at that moment we were the first ones.
Okay. I think that's actually an important lesson, right? The first thing is you just reached out to them, right? Like, what do you have to lose, right? Like the worst they can do is say, "No, not interested, don't call back," or something like that. But it seemed like, you were able to strike up a friendship with them, and they've ended up becoming a really important partner to you. Are there any lessons that you learned through that experience in lining all that up?
I think the biggest one, and I think that both my co-founder and I have experienced that before, but is don't be scared of not knowing about something, because you can learn by asking the right questions to the right people. And so we weren't scared to say, look, like we really don't have experience. We would love you to guide us, like walk us through what does it mean to have an industrialized recipe? What does it mean to have an FDA approved product? So like we were really humble, let's say. And so we learned that, being willing to be humble, being willing to accept that there are things that you don't know are the most important things to continue to develop on your journey as a businessman and entrepreneur.
Right. And then, the other thing I think is, maybe somebody else might have been a little apprehensive about reaching out to a potential competitor, right? Like these guys also had a brand. You could have looked at it as, hey, we compete against each other. Why would they help me? How did you think about that when you approached, another drink brand?
Yeah, you're right. But look, I mean, we early on, you should talk to possible about your idea and don't be afraid that someone is gonna steal it from you. Because at the end of the day, 99% is execution and 1% is idea. So there's no value in the idea first, and then obviously you want to protect yourself when you start sharing confidential information. So we shared a lot of information without an NDA signed, but then as soon as we started talking about specific ingredients and quantities and all that, we did sign an NDA that protected both parties of confidential information that don't want to be shared.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then just in that, hey, this is a competitor, but they had everything set up already, and they had experience. And so, ending up partnering with them, was a shortcut to setting all this up yourself or trying to find somebody else, and I think that other brands could do that. Say you want to start a protein bar company, here in the United States, you might actually consider reaching out to other protein bar companies to see if they could make your product, in manufacturing too, often people have, additional capacity and, they're looking at ways in which they can bring in additional revenue or put that capacity to use or things like that. So I think people are more open to it than you would probably think. Yeah,
that is true. And we also, we knew that our main focus is the US market, right? Their main focus is Ecuador now. They are expanding into other countries in South America. But we knew from early on that it's, even if they would want to penetrate the US market, it's so hard to do it if you are not close to the consumer. And you need to be here in order to create a successful consumer brand in the US. You cannot do it operating from overseas. So it wasn't we didn't have competing markets, let's say.
Okay. Yeah. So while you sold a similar product in like it's a beverage, right? A bottled beverage, you weren't actually competitors because you were in different markets. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So you guys nailed the formula on the first try, right? And it's been smooth sailing ever since. Or why don't you tell us about that experience? What did you learn? How did it go?
Yeah, no, I wish, but no, I think that the product now, the one that I just described, I think it's our fourth iteration in terms of packaging, branding, and positioning. Mm-hmm. And so we learned many things, but on the process, we've learned first to listen to the consumer to understand what are the key attributes that they are looking for. We learned about distribution because remember CPG is half of the business is distribution. So the right channels, what are the right channels for our brand? What are the right distributors for our brand? Understanding which ones can bring the most ROI at this stage of our venture. Mm-hmm. And all of the challenges around supply chain and logistics, how to scale manufacturing of, products. That is a lot of planning, a lot of forecasting, because it cannot happen from one day to another.
Right. I mean, especially in this environment where supply chains are kind of all over the place. Yeah. Do you have a concrete example of something that may be surprising that a customer told you about the product, and then how you guys responded to that feedback?
Yeah. So for example, in terms of positioning, early on we tried plant-based tonic. We were positioned as a plant-based tonic. And then what we learned after we launched that product was that consumers were confused on whether the product had bubbles because of tonic water. They didn't know if it was flat or had bubbles. So that was creating a lot of confusion. And in consumer, I think it's very important to set the right expectations. So when people buy a plant-based tonic and they think it had bubbles, and then they try and it's a product without a carbonation, they are disappointed, and it's a bad experience. They will never come back, right?
Yeah.
And so that was one of the specific things that I can remember right now, that we launched it, and then the market quickly told us, like, no, you need to clearly articulate what this is, because this is confusing for the consumer.
Right. And I actually think your current positioning, as a prebiotic herbal tea, I think that reaches just a much broader base of consumer, right? Like, so many people, I think I read somewhere, like, tea is the most popular beverage in the world, second to water, right?
Yeah.
Like something like that. And so I think that this is positioning that you had to come to. It sounds like, you had to work your way towards your current positioning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I think that the tea, ready-to-drink tea category is massive in the US. So it's a little over $7 billion. And when you think about the category, Ken, is all of the leading brands, so-called Snapples, the Arizonas, the Gold Peaks, the Pure Leaves, all of these brands are loaded with sugars. Up to 45 grams, empty carbs, up to 150 calories, and artificial ingredients. And so we think we bring a very different product to the category with zero added sugar, very low calorie, only natural ingredients, but also we add the prebiotic fiber. So to your point, this is a lot more mainstream than the product that we had before. And as you said, it's a work in progress. I don't think this will be the last iteration, but I think we're getting close to it.
Okay, great. Well, we're almost up on time here. I did want to make sure to touch on, what's coming up. It sounds like you guys are launching a new product, or why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, we're super excited because as the prebiotic herbal tea with prebiotic powers and zero added sugar is coming to market right now. This is brand new. We're calling it Waku 2.0 because we did a bunch of improvements on formulation, packaging, messaging, and positioning. And so the main launch of this new line is on April 12th, and we are having a virtual launch party on April 15th that is open to the public. If anyone wants to join, information is on our website. Just super excited because I think we did a terrific job on having incredible taste, sweet, but zero added sugar. We're sweetening with natural sweeteners such as monk fruit. And then the prebiotic fiber, again, a lot of people, most of Americans don't eat enough fiber during their day, and we're going to provide 25% of the daily intake. So highly recommend everyone who is listening to this to try it out. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, and if somebody's interested in trying that out, how do they do it? What's the best way to do it?
Oh yeah, so you can go to our Amazon store. You just search Waku Tea in the search bar, or www.leavewaku.com.
Okay, yeah, got it. Well, let's quickly do the quick fire round. I've got 4 questions for you, and then we'll wrap this up. What's one tool or resource that has helped you the most in your current position?
One tool or resource. I think that in our industry, the resource that has helped us the most is BevNet. It's a trade publication. They are covering all the trends on the industry and doing analysis on categories and product reviews. So I spend a lot of time learning about the industry there.
I've got one of their magazines right here on my desk right now.
Oh, there you go.
What is one book that you could recommend to the audience?
So I'm gonna share one that I read at the end of last year and that we implemented in Waku, and it's been very helpful. It's called Get a Grip, and from Andy Wickman. And this book is about implementing a management system for entrepreneurial companies called Entrepreneurial Operating System. So think about it as OKRs in steroids. It really helps you get alignment and clarity throughout the organization. It's really helpful when you're starting to scale.
Awesome. What is one piece of advice that you would give your 21-year-old self?
Dream bigger.
Goes to your early quote.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, sometimes at your 21-year-old self, you haven't had the opportunity to explore the world, to read many, many books and all that. But when you start opening up to the world and read more and understand how there are so many people around the world that are self-made, that have conquered everything that they wanted just through discipline and commitment, that they are not extraordinary. They just have really committed to a goal and have the discipline to execute on the plan. You can achieve whatever you set out to achieve.
Okay, I love it. And last, who is one person in your field, maybe another entrepreneur or another brand that you keep an eye on that you would love to take to lunch?
It's this Brazilian businessman that I told you. He's mostly a private equity guy, but they are the group behind AB InBev and Kraft Heinz. So it's they are behind consumer goods companies, big ones. But he is the most inspiring person that I've learned about. Is Brazilian billionaire, and the amount of impact he has had in Brazil is incredible. And so I think him is Jorge Paulo Lema is his name, and that's the person that inspires me the most.
Okay, well, awesome. As we wrap up here, I just wanted to say, I think this has been a fantastic interview, tons of value for other entrepreneurs. Is there any parting words for other entrepreneurs out there that are kind of in the grind right now? They're working through their business. What would you say to them?
We like to say with Nico is always move forward. Is a concept where no matter what challenge you're facing right now, there is always a solution if you keep grinding, if you keep trying to find a way. And so some of the listeners might be going through very challenging times on their business. Just remember, there is always a solution. Just keep moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great note to end on. Hey, appreciate it, Juan. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk soon. Appreciate it.
And this has been great. Thank you so much for the invite.
All right, awesome.
The Physical Product Movement Podcast is brought to you by Fiddle. To find out more about Fiddle and how our industry-leading inventory ops platform is giving modern brands and manufacturers full visibility into their inventory and operations, visit fiddle.io. And then make sure to search for Physical Product Movement in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Fiddle, thanks for listening.